You're listening to Never Heard of It, a Night Shift Radio production. So,
Oh,
yeah,
shit. My hands are
what?
cold. This is gonna hurt, but it didn't hurt.
It didn't hurt. No, that's good. So for those of you that were listening, you may recall about 3 weeks ago, I would say, Caleb and I talked about soft drinks, and we were talking a little bit about wanting to try different drinks.
Yeah.
And I kind of went on a little, I feel bad about it, but I went on a little tirade about a drink called Ugly.
Look at that.
And I was like, it's just so expensive, but I really want to try it because it's like $24 for a case for like a 6-pack, but you can do monthly. So they'll send you like a new one every month or whatever frequency you prefer.
Really?
And I was like, I don't know, like, man, it's just, I really want to try it, but I can't justify, I guess, the cost. Well, Ugly was listening, and they went ahead and sent us the whole care package of 3 different flavors. We got cherry, lemon, lime, and peach.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so they were kind enough to send me some, and I have to say, so far I'm about to try the lemon lime for the first time, but I've tried the cherry and the peach. So far, I absolutely loved the peach, but
lemon lime sounds good to me. I'm a lemon lime fan.
Oh, the lemon lime's really good. That's a really good drink. Yeah. What are we drinking? Oh, that's the wrong podcast. Sorry, that
was. Oh no, that's perfect. That's perfect.
But yeah, so shout out to Ugly. This was not a sponsor. They're not paying me to say this. I guess. I mean, they didn't tell me to say this. They just sent me a bunch of product. They sent us a bunch of product because we talked about it on our show, and you know what? It's actually really good. I'm a big fan. The fact that it's no sweeteners, no calories, no sugars, and nothing artificial, really, that's what kind of tipped me onto it, because I was trying to get away from soda.
So is it essentially a seltzer then? So at the risk of spending too much time on a product spot, like I have to know what it is, because we talked about, I tried the Oli Pop, and they were very much going for like a soda vibe. And it's like a little bit of cane sugar and then like stevia, and it's like very much soda, but this is not.
This is definitely leaning more towards the sparkling water, which typically I'm not a fan of. I've tried a few brands, and sparkling water was never really a thing I was into. But there's something about this that feels soda-like. Like the cherry, as an example, kind of reminds me of drinking black cherry soda.
Okay.
So it just, the peach is just straight up tastes like sparkling water with peach flavor, but it was really good. Like the peach is really good. So I was a big fan. The lemon lime though, it tastes like a Sprite or a 7-Up to me, or like a Sierra Mist. It's great. Yeah.
Now I'm looking on Spotify because there used to be a band called Black Cherry Soda that I was really into. I wasn't in the band.
Oh yeah, you were in the band. Yeah, no, Black Cherry. I think it was just Black Cherry.
No, there was a band called Black Cherry Soda.
Or was there really?
Yeah.
I know there was a Black Cherry band too.
I mean, I believe that. I wouldn't tell you that you were wrong.
I think they were the one that did the song like "Oh, She's a Crazy Bitch" or something.
I think you're thinking of Buck Cherry.
Buck Cherry, that's who it was. Yes, fucking Buck Cherry, man. Oh boy, that's a throwback. Speaking of bands like that, I actually recently pulled up not your playlist that you made, which is great, by the way.
I made a fucking killer playlist.
This is a fucking brilliant playlist. We'll share it. But I found a playlist of early 2000s like alternative hits.
Nice.
And it all started because for some reason, I think I was like driving with my daughter, and she was like, okay, she loves to like make up characters and tell me stories. And she was like, okay, this is the story of a girl. And I was like, this is the story of a girl. And then it was just, I was like, well, I have to the whole world. Right. I had to play the song, which led to me playing Closing Time by Semisonic. And, it one thing led to another.
One thing leads to another.
Now we're going 80s, but it eventually it led me to find this playlist on Apple Music, and I was listening through it, and I'm like, shit, there was some fucking bangers in the early
Yeah.
2000s. Like we have Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, Mr. Brightside by the Killers, Last Night by the Strokes, Maps by Yeah Yeah Yeahs,
Oh my
Island in
God.
the Sun by Weezer, Danny California by Red Hot Chili Peppers, The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, All My Life by Foo Fighters, No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age, Helena by My Chemical Romance. Like this, it was just, I was like, holy shit, this is my mixed CD circa 2004 or something gee, there's like Vampire Weekend, Paramore, Arctic Monkeys, Bright Eyes, Fallout Boy, Block Party, Arcade
Jesus.
Fire, TV on the Radio. Like, dude, you could not get a better but then I was thinking about it and I was playing these songs and I was like, oh fuck, a lot of these songs are 20 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Think
20
about
years
that.
old. They could play on an oldie station. Like Blink 182 could play on an oldie station. This is 24 years old.
Growing up as a kid, listening to oldies on the radio and thinking like, okay, like this is the the mid '80s now, and we're listening to music like oldies is like right now mostly music like '50s, '60s. Like shit, there's gonna be a point where I'm an adult and like our music now is oldies.
Yeah,
and it's happening.
It's happening right now. Yeah, 100%. So I gotta look it up. So Dude Ranch,
Dude
Blink
Ranch,
182,
yes.
right?
Yes.
That came out in 1997, which
mm-hmm.
was 24 years ago. Which the cutoff for like a adult top 40 type thing or like oldies is 20 years. So like Dude Ranch songs could 100% play on an oldie station.
That's amazing. And they should.
And they should, like in between, but they have to play it like in between other songs, where they're like, all right, here's Frankie and the Four Seasons, and coming up next, Damn It by Blink 182. Like it's just like that's how like it has to immediately follow like Barbara Ann or something like that.
That's flawless. That should absolutely be a thing.
I mean, if radio were still a thing, that's how my radio station would be. It'd be like, here's Jailhouse Rock by Elvis. Next up is, Neo playing his hit Tipsy.
Oh my God.
Which also came out like in the 90s, so it's wild.
Now I want to curate an oldies playlist.
Yeah, right. But then it'd just be like, I mean, in all fairness, my current playlist is basically just an oldies playlist because it's still the same like 3 Taking Back Sunday albums from the early 2000s anyways. So like,
well, you mentioned the one that I made the other day, and that came from a conversation where like somebody, I think Ellen was watching a TikTok video or something like that. And somebody was like mentioned emo songs, but like the music that they refer to as emo was mostly like what we would have called nu metal. And she's like, wow, like people have a really different opinion on what is emo now. I was like, well, that term, I got kind of pedantic for a moment. I was like, that term was always kind of like nebulous and bullshit. Like it just got slapped onto like half a dozen subgenres of like pop punk and folk and post-hardcore and like you name, like basically anything that like someone didn't automatically like have a genre in mind for. The like, this is emo. And there was like the whole like history from like bands like Rites of Spring and whatnot up through like next thing you know, Jimmy Eat World and Dashboard Confessional are emo, like that whole thing.
Fallout Boy. Yeah, every time someone's like, oh, it's like emo, like Fallout Boy, and I'm like, what that is like standard pop punk. That is like dictionary textbook pop punk.
So I made a joke that I was like, oh, I should make a playlist for you of what we considered emo when I was a youth. And then like I actually just started doing it, going all the way back to like mostly like mid to late 90s to like early 2000s. So like Branson and Gloria Record and Sunday's Best and Boy's Life and Christie Front Drive and Elliot and Nona, like all of these bands that like I don't necessarily consider emo, because again, I think, you know, use the term if you want. I'm not here to judge you, but I think the term's kind of bullshit, and most of these bands fit into some other more appropriate genre. But these are all bands that might have in the time been labeled as emo, and they're all, you know, all stuff that I listened to. And I just made this like, it's 3 hours and 59 seconds. If I knew a 1 minute song off the top of my head that fit properly into this, I would make it exactly 4 hours and just chef's kiss it. But like I just like I didn't put any curation effort into it. I was mostly going with the like suggested songs algorithm. Like, yep, that one, definitely that one, and I listened to it the next day. I'm like, holy shit, this flows so well.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw this out there. You can agree or disagree. I think you would. But if we're gonna use the term, I think Taylor Swift's last 2 albums fall under the category of emo.
I think you could honestly make a case for a lot of Taylor Swift's music to fall under the category of emo.
It's maybe at least the last 3 albums. I mean, definitely like 100% the last 2. I mean, the last 2 albums really are just like the soundtrack to every cottagecore lesbian ever. But also, I could very easily say that it is very emo, because I mean, it's very reminiscent of early Dashboard to me.
Yeah.
Or like Lifetime or something, you know, like
Lifetime the band or Lifetime the channel?
it's a mixture of both, leaning more towards the band. But...
Oh my god, that's the very beginnings of an idea in my head. I won't get into it now. But yeah, like I think it was last week for Left of the Dial, one of our other Night Shift Media Group podcasts. We had a guest that fell through at the last minute, and Kids was like, you know, does anybody have any backup plans? I was like, well, I've been listening to Lover pretty much exclusively this week, so no, I don't have a backup plan unless you want to talk about Lover, which I don't think you do.
But you should, because it's a great fucking album.
That record has some fucking jams on it.
It's just so good. It's so good. But I mean, so speaking of music, bringing it into this podcast. So a fun fact about the movie we're going to talk about today is that all of the music you heard was recorded live with the cameras and microphones there. There was no pre-recorded laid down soundtracks to this film. All of it is, you're hearing it exactly as it was played in the moment.
I mean, you would kind of have to, the way that it's presented, and with how just like, I don't want to go on like full on cacophonous, but like how just like it's just like constant steady background music and noise, and like it is like in the din of constant conversation and whatnot. So yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. So that being said, hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. I'm your host, Michael Fight.
And I'm not letting Ellen pick movies for the podcast anymore. I'm just kidding. This was great.
This movie stressed me out so bad. Oh my God. Like this whole movie, I was like looking at my watch, expecting it to be like, hey, your blood pressure is like unreasonably high for some reason. And you're like, yeah, motherfucker. This movie's stressing me out.
Okay, so let's quickly get out of the way. The movie that we're talking about this week, of course, you will know if you saw the title, is Rachel Getting Married, which is a film starring Anne Hathaway and Rosemary DeWitt.
Annie Hathaway, by the way. She wants to be referred to as Annie Hathaway now. She does not like the name Anne. She recently gave this interview not that long ago.
Good to know. Apologies to Annie, which I think is a great name anyway.
Agreed.
And this was selected by my wife Ellen, who again does not listen to the podcast, but is sometimes subjected to the movies that we watch, and I think just for once wanted to get a say. But she also was like, you know, this is I feel like this one kind of like flew under the radar, and like maybe it would be less well known, so it'd be a good one to talk about. This is a bit heavier than most of our normal movies, so it might be a little bit of a struggle to make the jokes, but you know, it's still very enjoyable. Some content warning that might be difficult for people is talk of substance abuse and addiction, talk of like self harm and like of
wrongful death.
wrongful death, of like implications of like abuse at home, things like that. So if any of those are difficult for you, this might not be the movie for you to watch. But that said, we specifically chose this movie because we're doing this month. This is March still, right? Yeah, it's March, where we in the real world, the real world, quote unquote, over on Disney Plus, we're transitioning from the WandaVision show to soon to be released the Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we had, our first week was a movie starring Catherine Hahn. The next week, a movie largely starring Sebastian Stan. Next week, we'll be talking about a movie starring Anthony Mackie. This week, the reason that we were able to fit Rachel getting married in is because I noticed that Sebastian Stan is in this movie. And I didn't know
build in this movie too.
Yeah, and I didn't know to what extent. And I feel like this worked out perfectly because he is in this movie, but for like 4 lines in the very beginning, and that's it. So
yeah,
it's not like we're giving a significant preference to Sebastian Stan and doing 2 movies where he's the star. He's just like, he's in it, and then we move on.
Yeah, and actually, at the time of you listening to this episode, unless you are one of our Patreon subscribers who listening to it on a Thursday, Falcon and Winter Soldier has already debuted, right? Because it's March 18th, I think it is, or maybe I'm confusing it with
the Snyder cut.
With the Snyder cut. I'm not.
I think it's the 19th
sure.
that debuts. I think it's on Friday because the 18th is Thursday. And
yeah, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, the 19th. So yeah, so if you are a Patreon subscriber and listening to this on Thursday, Falcon and the Winter Soldier debuts tomorrow. If you are everyone else and listening on Sunday or later, it has already debuted. So the first episode has already happened. We are recording this before, obviously, that, so we cannot tell you anything about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we can tell you that so far reviews are very positive. So.
And like, given that I was not the least bit interested in WandaVision until, over the course of like the New Year's break, we rewatched the entire MCU, and then I got excited, and then we watched it, and holy shit, it was really good.
Yeah.
I suddenly find myself actually excited and interested in Falcon and Winter Soldier, which again I previously wasn't. I actually had like no desire to watch any of the new television series that they were releasing. They just I'm like, yeah, these are side characters. Like, okay, cool. Like, keep it going. Like, get people to subscribe to Disney Plus. Hooray, good for you. But like, they're actually really good.
They're really good. And, WandaVision, after having watched the entire series, I feel like we're far enough now where I feel like I'm not going to like majorly spoil it. We're not going to talk in detail, but I feel like the implications of WandaVision, specifically the season finale, it definitely set up that last scene in WandaVision felt like no different than one of the end credit scenes you would see in one of the major films. Like, it was like, oh shit, that's gonna be bad. Like, this is gonna become a bigger thing than this is the equivalent of seeing Thanos for the first time being like, fine, I'll do it myself. That was no different.
Yes.
So I think that's going to be awesome for Doctor Strange 2. But I've heard so far that the people who have watched the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier have basically been like, yeah, like the first episode, you're going to be like, oh shit, like this is going to be a big deal. That guy is probably going to be a big deal. And yeah, we're probably getting Young Avengers.
Oh,
so, I mean, we've already been introduced to half of them. So, like, we know Kate Bishop is coming. We know Ms. Marvel is coming. We know America Chavez is coming.
What, really?
Yeah, she's been confirmed for upcoming movie. I forgot which one, but she's been cast in one of them.
That's so great.
We already know, like, and we, like I said, Kate Bishop. Like, who else? There was a couple others. Cassie Lang. Like, we already know Cassie Lang exists. She takes over from Ant-Man's powers. Like, we literally know half of the Young Avengers already. So like, it's happening. Like, it's gonna happen.
Oh, looks like she's gonna have a role. America Chavez is gonna have a role in Multiverse of Madness.
Right, that's what it was. Because she's
actually
from
is
a
perfect for her.
multiverse.
Yeah,
because she is from an alien planet with lesbian parents, by the way, which is actually really awesome.
I love her story so much.
Yeah, one of my favorites as well. Yeah, obviously, as someone with lesbian parents, I appreciate it a lot. So, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I Kate Bishop is a fucking great character, so I can't wait for that Hawkeye story. I hope they bring back Laura Kinney. I hope they somehow, like, it doesn't have to necessarily link to Logan, but it would make sense if it does. I think Laura Kinney, X-23, is a fantastic character.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Like, X-23, Kate Bishop, America Chavez, like, these characters all together are fucking amazing. So
they're just so good.
Give it to me.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Oh, your video went away.
Yeah, my video changed. I noticed there was too many delays in my other camera, so I swapped cameras. Yeah. So anyways, Rachel getting married. We're gonna go from that, and we're gonna talk about two people. So this movie stars Anne Hathaway, and so this is 2008, and this is, I would say 2008 is probably peak Anne Hathaway. Like, she'd just come off like some of her smaller films like Havoc and a few others, and this is really like where she's starting to build, like, this is just before all her romantic comedy runs. Like, this is right before 27 Dresses, this is before The Devil Wears Prada, like, this is just after Princess Diaries. So this is like a great bridge film to be able to be like, oh, you grew up.
Yeah, this is Anne Hathaway finding her place as a dramatic actress and not just like teen comedy.
Yeah.
Which also, like, just on the heels of Brokeback Mountain, which I think was like probably, after,
forget about that movie. It's so good.
After The Princess Diaries and Ella Enchanted, like, those movies probably hit like her first like big break.
Yeah.
Pun not intended, but I guess kind of.
I mean, kind of.
Braked and broke back. I don't know, words,
I mean, I don't think it's a pun, but I get what you're saying. I see where you're going.
But yeah, like, her starting to come into her own as a dramatic actor, and honestly, like, she's fantastic.
She just is. She's so, like, everybody, like, how you talk about Meryl Streep is how you're going to talk about Anne Hathaway in 15, 20 years.
Total sidebar. Speaking of Anne Hathaway, did you ever see Colossal?
No, but I've heard that it's not the film you think it is, but it's still a really good movie.
We should do that one sometime, because I would love to do that. I fucking loved it and would watch it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I've heard that, like, I remember seeing poster or trailer for it thinking like, wow, this looks like a dope monster movie, and then someone being like, it's not a monster movie. Like, it's not at all. Like, yes, there's that element, but that's not really what it's like. When you watch it, you're like, oh, okay.
Also, Jason Sudeikis is having his moment.
Yeah. I like that. So Rachel getting married basically follows the story of Kim, spelled with a Y for some reason. And Kim is, we see that Kim is in rehab. So obviously, she is struggling from some form of substance abuse, whether, we don't really know what it is until much later in the film, until she really goes into detail of what specifically it was. It turns out it was, things like pills and stuff like that. And we see that she's there, and this is where we see Sebastian Stan
as
right
Walter.
Off the bat. As Walter. Yeah, as what does she call him? Waldo?
I think so, yeah. He's like, my name is Walter.
And that's pretty much his only line.
He's demanding to get his Zippo back from one of the I don't know if she's like a doctor or an attendant or a therapist or someone who works at the rehab facility in some
counselor
way.
Of sorts.
And she's telling him no, and he gets kind of aggressive about it, and she Rose, the attendant, the therapist, whatever her role is,
Yeah.
she has one of the best lines, and she doesn't say like, "Are you threatening me?" or like, "Was that a threat?" She says, "Are you making a choice, Walter?"
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the language of recovery, but in this moment, it's beautiful comedy, and I loved it.
It was great. Yeah. No, honestly, I that's going to be my next like parenting tactic. To be like, are you making a choice?
Are
Is
you
that the
making?
choice you want to make? Kid's gonna be like, I don't know what that means. Just give me the chocolate. Damn. Um, yes, I'm choosing Oreos for breakfast. So so we see that we see obviously that Kim has been struggling, and she's still stressed out, but she is getting out because her sister is getting married, Rachel.
Yeah.
And so obviously we see she her dad comes to pick her up.
Hmm.
And her dad picks her up, and we see that like they have a good relationship, but it's obvious that the dad is definitely one of those characters that's like, oh, well, let's not talk about that. Let me just make you some food and let's just carry on, blinders. Everything's fine. Nothing's bad ever. Let's just do our thing. And but you can tell that like bubbling under the surface, she's kind of being like, yes, I want to not talk about things, but at the same time, she's kind of like, but I think I need to.
Yeah.
And we don't really know the extent of why, outside of the addiction, why there's like this rift between them.
Yeah, Dad in this movie very much strikes me as a like never processed uh really anything, and just wants to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And that becomes more and more apparent as we go on, but like he very much he dodges a lot of questions and doesn't really get into deep conversations, but at the same time, like he's keeping a close, wary eye on Kim as he brings her home to the wedding in preparation, and also he's very much he's the caretaker role in this movie,
Totally.
where in a lot of movies like this you might see like a mother or a grandparent that is the constantly hovering, like, have you eaten, here's some food, oh, you have to go to your meeting, let me drive you, like the constant like give. He plays that role, and I actually really appreciated that about this movie, because it flips the script a bit, because later we do meet the mother, and she's very distant and not involved, and it was nice to see them make that, what I assume was a decision.
Yeah. I mean, so this film was written by Jenny Lumet, and so Jenny has written a few scripts before, but this was actually the first one that ever became a movie. But she went on to do The Mummy, the one with Tom Cruise. So she went on to do The
You
Mummy
don't
with Tom
say.
Cruise, but she's also a producer for Star Trek Discovery.
Which is just
Um,
fantastic.
and
Just
she's a producer for the show Clarice, which
uh,
is just coming out.
co-executive producer for Discovery and consulting producer for Picard. So she's
Oh, nice.
fairly heavily, and executive producer for Strange New Worlds, which is coming soon, I hope, because I need it.
Yeah,
Um,
she also wrote episodes for Strange New Worlds and Discovery.
I'm very excited for this new world of Trek, and it's cool to see uh, someone with this talent in writing being that heavily involved in the show.
Yeah, and this is that's you can get all that stuff on Paramount Plus, right? Isn't that where
Yes,
this is all going now? The
yeah.
CBS All Access
That's
and Paramount Plus like merged or something?
that was my biggest concern when the parent company Paramount announced that they were changing up the streaming service and making CBS All Access Paramount Plus, and like changing up like the tier structure and like the content and everything. I was like, do whatever the fuck you feel you need to do. Do not screw with my ability to watch Star Trek. Otherwise, I'm
Right.
gone. I'm out.
I gotta go. I'm out of here. Yeah.
I got a lot of problems with you people.
Where's my poll? But and then so outside of that, obviously, The Mummy wasn't great, but it
You
was
shut your
fun.
mouth.
Well, this is the Tom Cruise Mummy. This isn't,
Oh, okay,
the
yeah, never
Brendan
mind.
Fraser Mummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Tom Cruise Mummy. It's not a bad movie. It really isn't. It's definitely one I could watch again. And it definitely would have been a great way to set up like a monster cinematic, the Universal monster cinematic universe, but it just never
Yeah.
did.
I
Which was a shame.
I had mixed feelings about the idea of a monsterverse. But that said, I think some of those monsters are such classic characters that like bringing them back respectfully would be a good thing. It just like the chances of it being like respectfully done and not just completely ruining the stories is pretty low at this point.
I mean, I'll be honest. They have a very, very extremely high bar to meet in terms of crossover, and that is, of course, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is one of the most fantastic films I've ever watched.
Oh my god!
But that has like Jekyll and Hyde. It has like Nemo. It has like Alan Quartermain. Like
yeah, the
it's just so
urban legend. Urban legend being that Connery just didn't have any clue where he was through the majority of the filming of that.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah,
just like kind of stumbled his way through.
Yeah.
What a
I mean, it was like Huck Finn or no Tom Sawyer. It was Tom Sawyer is in it.
Did we
Dorian
lose Sean
Gray.
Connery last year?
We did.
One of the casualties of 2020?
And we lost him just before Alex Trebek because I remember it being like Alex Trebek got the last word.
Oh, that's right. It was last actor. Yeah. Fuck you, Trebek.
Trebek. Take that, Connery. Yeah.
Yeah. Halloween of 2020.
So. That's a shame.
Yeah. I mean, dude was 90, so like
right. So here's another really weird connection. So Jenny Lumet, as we mentioned, wrote this film, and she is the producer and writer for Clarice, which is about the FBI agent who was dealing with, Silence of the Lambs, dealing with Hannibal Lecter. This movie was directed by Jonathan Demme, who directed Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Which was the first introduction of Clarice. That's the first time we ever saw her, who at the time was played by Jodie Foster.
Which Demme had some heavy hitting movies. I mean, Philadelphia, Manchurian Candidate, like big deal. So, I mean, I guess...
like it's wild, to Ellen's point, it's wild that this film went under the radar when you have somebody who has done such fantastic, like, I mean, Silence of the Lambs is still to this day considered one of the best, psychological criminal movies of all time. Philadelphia is, also very highly talked about. It's wild.
And like the casts of these movies are like top notch. Even like I guess I don't think Rachel getting married necessarily would be considered like star-studded, but like extremely well cast. And with like in the benefit of hindsight and up and coming Anne Hathaway, like that's a big deal,
right?
So good for the late John Demme.
Who died about 4 years ago. Yeah, but I mean, we've got Anne Hathaway, Rosemary DeWitt, Deborah Winger. Like this is a pretty good cast, and now Sebastian Stan.
Speaking of Rosemary DeWitt, I thought like she's one of those actors that like I saw her and thought like I know this person. Like where do I know this person? And I really have seen almost nothing she's been in, with the exception of the one episode of Black Mirror, Archangel. That she was in, and I think that has to be it. I mean, she reminds me a little bit of I'd have to look up her name, but one of the actors from Haunting of Hill House who played the older sister reminds me a little bit of her. But I don't think that's at all who I was thinking of. I think it had to have been that Black Mirror episode, which is weird because it's been several years since I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, so Little Fires Everywhere is pretty good. She's in that. I'm trying to think. So La La Land, she's good in that. I'm trying to think of what else I've seen her in.
Elizabeth Reeser was the other actor that I was thinking of. Who like?
Oh right. She was in Mad Men.
Yeah. Oh, that is right. That is right.
Yep.
It's Midge, right?
Yeah, Midge Daniels.
Ms. Daniels.
Yeah, which was shortly after this. It was about 2 years after this film came out that she was in that. Before that, I mean, she was in some TV shows. She was in some movies. She was in Sex and the City as like one episode. She was in an SVU episode. But yeah. Oh, and she was in Cinderella Man as well.
The crazy, like this, Rachel Getting Married has a very large cast of like, you know, this. I used the word cacophonous earlier. I mean, it's set as almost like family home movie style, shaky cam documentary, like weaving in and out of this like 3 days of a crowded house and restaurant and like big family event. There's like dozens of people here and like several on screen at almost all times. But the way they managed to center the dynamic between Annie and Rosemary, you know, Kim and Rachel, like their sister dynamic is so well done that you get these really poignant moments of just the two of them in the midst of all of this chaos. And like big kudos to both actors for like how well they pulled that off.
Oh yeah, 100%. You bringing up that it does feel like home movie is 100% accurate. And there's a weird moment where somebody is actually taking like video for I would assume like a soldier who is off.
He's Sydney's brother.
Who is off?
He's home. They keep referencing like, we're glad to have you home. We want you home for real.
See, I thought they were talking to like who he was recording it for, and up until the end, I think it was that I think I was like, oh no, that's him. Yeah,
it's because it just doesn't put the camera down ever. And like at one point, they're like, we're glad to have you here. Can you put the camera away?
Yeah. So it's weird because we jump back and forth from traditional film style of like following people, of like setup shots to actually viewing it through this. But but you're spot on. It definitely feels like home movie shaky cam type stuff. Now, before we get further into this, we're going to take a quick break and hear from us to talk about some cool sponsors and podcasts that you guys should listen to. And when we come back, we will actually get into the crux of Rachel Getting Married.
Looking for something heroic in your life? Go check out our friends at the Super Pod HeroCast. They're guys with beers talking about movies with capes. Every episode goes in depth with a different superhero movie. A classic of modern cinema? A certified stinker? It doesn't matter. If it's a superhero movie, they're going to talk about it. Start with a little bit of comedy, add in some film analysis, and finish it off with a heaping dose of geekery. You've got the Super Pod HeroCast. It doesn't matter if you're a casual fan or a 20th level nerd. Download their latest episode, grab a beverage, and enjoy the fun. The Super Pod HeroCast. Be heroic.
Second Edition 1 is Night Shift Radio's Battlestar Galactica fancast. Each week, Battlestar veterans Caleb and Kitsy revisit, and newcomer to the show, Andrea, watches for the first time the 2004 sci-fi series Battlestar Galactica. They've just entered their third season, which means you've got 2 full seasons of sci-fi gold to binge if you want to watch along with them. Whether you're the commander of a soon-to-be decommissioned battleship, or were recently promoted to president of the 12 colonies. Join Caleb, Kitsy, and Andrea as they make their way through the Battlestar Galactica universe one episode at a time. Watch Battlestar Galactica free on Peacock and find Second Edition 1 at Second Edition 1 throughout the podcast.com or wherever you get podcasts. Hello and welcome back. So we've introduced kind of the premise and a lot of the actors and players in Rachel Getting Married. And we've mentioned that the film starts right off the bat with Kim, played by Anne Hathaway, getting out of rehab, and now she's coming home to this madness. So this is just the madness of this house, and like everybody's bustling around, and you can tell right off the bat, there is tension between, like, there is like, this is the eggshells. Everybody is walking on eggshells around the situations of Kim going to rehab, of Kim coming out of rehab and being part of the wedding. So we see that her sister Rachel, is there, and she hasn't seen her in a very long time, and she's like, oh my God, like, you look great, and then we learn that that Rachel has chosen her friend to be the maid of honor, but is basically Rachel or Kim kind of assumes that it's her. She just assumes that she's going to be the maid of honor because she's her sister and the whole spiel. But then, she actually learns in a very like awkward way very shortly after that.
Yes, because she actually runs into Kieran, the best man, at an NA meeting. Right, I think it's Naranon.
Yeah,
And then she meets him back at the house. She's like, "Oh, hey, you."
it's
Uh,
you.
and they sneak off and they have sex. And she's like, "We should make this tradition where the best man and the maid of honor just fuck while everyone else is like going crazy doing all the work." And he's like, "Well, pretty sure Emma's the maid of honor." She's like, "What?"
Yeah, she was like,
Not
what?
really that aggressive, but
Yeah,
you can tell she
yeah.
wants to.
Yeah. Now, I do want to preface. So we did talk about how this movie is. This isn't really a comedy. Like there was maybe one or two parts that are like set up as punchlines, but this is a very uncomfortable movie, and it's meant to be as such.
Yeah.
Like there, again, the whole idea of like this looming thing that nobody is talking about is a running theme throughout the movie, and it even doesn't really like there is no like explosive moment where everyone's like blah feelings, now I feel better, let's resolve them. It literally just is looming the entire time, which I'm going to say this as someone with zero experience dealing with addicts or something like that, but I assume this is probably more realistic, that like this is what it's like for somebody who is in recovery coming back and dealing with their family, is that like there's always that looming, especially in this instance with this tragedy tied to it, that there will always be this looming like unsaid thing that just sucks.
Yeah,
So I mean, I can't speak to that, but I'm guessing that this is what makes it feel real.
Kieran, as a fellow addict in recovery, later mentions like when there is a bit of an argument and Kim disappears for a bit. He's like, "Look, like, coming back, like interacting with your family is probably the hardest part. Like I didn't see mine for like a year and like all this stuff, and so like she needs time." And like I don't know. I also don't have the direct experience with this to really say for sure, but like anytime the addiction and recovery is portrayed in movies and in TVs and whatnot, there's always this sense of like the family has given up. Like they tried to be supportive, but they could only go so far, and like we just give up. And like that always bothers me. Like the idea that you just like we helped you twice, but we're not going to do it a third time, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a weird thing. And given that I just don't have the experience in it outside of literally just movies and shows, I can't speak to it as much as I would love to, I guess, go into detail about it. I just can't. It's not an experience I have. Oh, there we go. Got to clean up the Night Shift Radio logo. We both got the thing. It's so good. Oh, Billy. For those of you on YouTube, you totally got that joke.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing about this movie that also frustrates me, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad movie. It isn't.
No.
It's just it's a movie that it's one of those movies that was written to feel like you are just at an event. Like it's not set up. This isn't a typically structured film where it's like, I'm going to introduce a character. Here's this bunch of exposition. Oh no, a conflict. Character growth, resolution. Like it's not like I felt like I was at this wedding. And I have to say, I've only ever been, well, I guess technically I've been to 2 weddings in my life. One of them I was 4, so I absolutely do not remember. And the other wedding was my fucking own. I've never been to another wedding. And after watching this movie, I hope to never fucking go to a wedding ever again.
So
ever.
I have been in several, including my own, like in as like a member of the party, or like at the very least attended, and the chaos and the tension and just like everyone stressing out and whatnot, like all of this is very, very accurate, and it was something from which we learned for our own wedding and tried to make it the least stressful and least chaotic it could possibly be. And even then, like there still was some, but like the way that people are so unable to even just enjoy the moment because there's so much going on, and like you're trying so hard to make it perfect. Like fuck making it perfect. Make it fun.
Just make it happen. Like just
Yeah,
worry
make
about
it
it
happen.
happening. Worry about the fun later. Just make it happen. Yeah, that I mean, I'm divorced now, been divorced for a while now, but that's, that was one of the things about our wedding is that we didn't stress about seating arrangements. We didn't stress about any of that stuff. Like we literally were just like, let's get the people there.
Hmm.
Let's make sure they eat, make sure there's food, make sure there's music, and leave it at that. Like
Hmm.
everything else will fall into place. Like we did not stress a lot of the stuff, like the bridesmaids and the grooms. Like we were very open. Like we even, like for the bridesmaids, we even had them choose like the cheapest possible dresses. We basically were like, this color, this style, find it literally wherever. Like we did not make them pay this absurd amount,
Yep.
for anything. Same thing with the groomsmen. The only thing that I did was I paid for all of their cummerbunds and ties, because we did. I've talked about this before, but we did the gender flip flop, where
Oh yeah,
all
yeah.
of the brides, on the bride side, everyone wore blue or teal, and on the groom side, everyone wore pink. Pink accents. I was in black, but I had a pink tie. And then all my groomsmen had pink cummerbunds and pink ties. That was our flip flop. So,
Nice.
but yeah, that was it. I mean, it was just, let's not stress. But like, talk about this wedding. So Rachel is marrying Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
and Sydney, for all intents purposes, is a blurred. He is a black nerd, and that's how they, that's the reference. I got that from Scrubs. I don't know if that's a legit. I'm pretty sure that's a term. I mean, that's how it is. So I mean, it is, but this is the
I
most
believe
like
you.
weirdly mixed cultural wedding I have ever seen in my life. Because
Yeah.
Rachel White,
Mhm.
we know this from both her parents
Connecticut,
are white.
like
She's
Stamford, Connecticut.
Oh, 100%. Sydney is black, but there's like Indian elements, and then there was like Asian elements, but then there
Mhm.
was like weird like Irish folky elements, and then it
At,
was a
at
really weird mix of culture,
at one point,
which
I
none
think
of
there
them
was.
seemed to reflect them.
I think at one point there was some African influence in the like
Yep.
reception, like really interesting, and it was hard to tell the line between like, is any of this appropriation or like is this just like a fit of like representing like who all these people are, because it was an incredibly diverse group overall,
Yeah.
so like it didn't feel like it was appropriation beyond maybe the white women wearing saris. That was a little weird. Uh, but
Yeah. I
I
mean, I
don't
feel
know.
like that's
I
such
don't
a
know.
like, yeah. Yeah, it was really weird. So one of the characters in it is referred to only as the wedding czar, and we never are actually introduced to this character, but this person appears to be the one who's kind of like making the wedding happen, which is where I think we're getting all of these elements from. But it's played by Bo Sia, and Bo Sia has been in a few movies. More specifically, he was actually in Jonathan Demme's The Manchurian Candidate,
Hmm.
but just as like a random side character. He was in the movie Hitch as literally drugstore clerk. Like he wasn't even like he's not even credited as anything.
So
Um,
he
but
gets a
he's just
lot of parts, but they're not necessarily like named or like big parts.
yeah. So like it's really weird. But this character, you see him through the movie so many times, tons of times, in fact. But like
Hmm.
he never really talks. We never really get introduced to him or explain the purpose of his character, but he's just always fucking there. And it's really weird. That was one of the weird things where I kept seeing him and I'm like, shouldn't someone like talk to this person? Like, who is this guy? He is in every fucking scene. You should talk, like, just somebody say something to him.
I feel like
Like, anybody.
there was a couple of people like that, because there was someone who's credited as like the wedding PA, and I think that was the woman that was just like constantly walking around like at the rehearsal dinner. She was handing out the microphone and like
Oh,
giving
right.
people weird looks, and like she would just be like walking around and doing random things, and occasionally getting not quite yelled at, but not quite spoken friendly to.
Right.
Stuff like that. And it was there was the wedding planner played by Inbo Shim, who again like the no name, just there.
Yep. Yeah, just showed up. I'm only here to collect a paycheck, I guess.
But and again, like if we think about it from the concept that like, this is like family home movie style in this big event, of course they're not going to be focusing on these people who are there to make the event happen, because their whole job is to be kind of out of the way for the family. Like if they're
Right.
doing things right, quote unquote, then the event is just happening, and the family doesn't have to notice that they're there. That's that's my read on it, but it is interesting that there are so many characters like this, and I think that makes it feel more genuine. And of course, we can't forget Olive the poodle.
Oh, so cute.
Such a good dog.
It was a good boy. Girl. Yeah. I don't know. It was really weird. But yes, completely. So we mentioned that there's this like looming thing about about the incidents around around Kim, and there's a lot of very interesting things that in a standard movie, in a typically written movie, we would have gotten this weird backstory. So like little things are dropped in that were definitely it definitely falls under the category of like, ooh, I would love to know more about that, but if I don't, it's not going to ruin the movie for me. Whereas we have talked about this on multiple occasions where we will learn a fact and you're like, that seems really important, you should talk about that, and then they never do, and you're like, well, I guess I'll just have to figure that out on my own. I hope I'm right, man, I'm confused. But they dropped things to the effect of like, Kim was on the cover of 17 magazine.
Yeah.
Like that was a very like, they dropped that fact and you're like, wait, what? And then they also dropped the effect. So the only thing I can think of is that there's something to the effect where Kim was a child star of some sort, whether she was a model or an actress or something, but she had some slice of fame as a young kid. But which tragically happens sometimes, it ended up causing her to get addicted to pills, specifically Percocet. And she recants this story, and the story is, and we learn this very late, like we do learn that they had a younger brother by the name of Ethan, but we don't really learn the circumstances around Ethan's death, but we do learn that Ethan is dead. They say a few times like, oh man, I wish Ethan could be here. Like it's, I'm sure Ethan would have loved this. But fun fact, all the photos of Ethan in this film were actually photos of Anne Hathaway's younger brother Thomas.
Oh, that is a fun fact.
Yeah, so they're all just photos of him as a kid, and her, like him and her and stuff. So that's pretty interesting. But so what we learn is that, and this is something. So mom and dad are divorced. Dad has remarried, and that's another thing that's really interesting is that stepmom, she has maybe 2 lines this whole movie. Like nobody even brings up like, well, she is the stepmom. Like you they say like, oh, well, this is mom and blah, 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 blah. But then you're like, wait, no, that's other mom. Got it. So like, it was really, that was just one of those, like they dropped that in there, but then we're like, no backstory, no needed. And you're like, okay, like, cool.
Just family. I mean, that again, that lends a lot to the realism that like
totally.
There are families that like, yes, the parents are divorced, they're both remarried, they're civil, they can attend events together, they're happy for each other, and like that's it. Like that doesn't contribute to the drama, and like nobody hates the stepmom, they love her, she's great.
Even the real mom compliments, she was like, oh, your dad and whatever her name is did such a great job. Like you guys, they really did a great job setting up the wedding. Like she compliments that they did a good job doing it.
Carol was the stepmother's
Carol,
name.
that's right.
Yeah, and again, like she's there, and it's a series of tropes that they manage to either like sidestep or flip altogether, which I think is again a credit to the writing of this movie.
Yeah, Agreed. And so there's a lot to this movie.
There's a lot.
There is a lot, but so we learn that at one point, Kim is 16 years old. She's high on Percocets. She tells this story of her and her brother are playing. They used to go to this place and they used to play. The story was it felt very disjointed, but like once you get to like where the story starts ramping up, you're like, oh God, oh shit. So basically what happens is that Kim is high on Percocets. She's 16. She's looking after her brother because, you know, dad is off at work. Mom, for whatever reason, is off at work or something. She leaves Kim in charge of Ethan. And she ends up, you know, going to drive him home. And they end up crashing because she was high. And Ethan ends up dying in that crash. So this is basically what triggers, you know, her ending up having to go to rehab. The assumption is that she basically went into some sort of, you know, like court ordered rehab and has been there since. And this is her first moment kind of like really like fully getting out, and like she's been sober 9 months. So like this is like her first foray and like, okay, I'm really going to try real life now after, you know, 10 years or so ago, accidentally killing her brother.
And I do like the way that they tell that story, because again, it's hinted at. We know that that Ethan is dead. There's the moment where they're the dad and the groom to be have a little competition of who can load the dishwasher the fastest, and you know, Kim is helping her dad out. He's like, I need more dishes because he's winning, and she pulls out a stack, and in that stack, for some reason, is like Ethan's plate, like it's got his name on it, and like, you know, kitty artwork and whatnot. And like that's kind of an odd place to keep a reminder of your dead son. But you know what? I'm not here to tell you how to live your life.
Who it's been like 10 years. Like if it was
Yeah.
like a couple of years, it'd be one thing, but like 10 years to have it just in the normal thing is
Yeah. So again, we get all these hints, like you said, and we get a snippet where she's either flashing back to, or she goes to another meeting. The sense that I got was that she went to another meeting.
Yeah, that was
and
my sense.
she tells the whole story, and she talks about, like, you know, I can come to terms with it, but I cannot forgive myself. And like you can tell that like she still very much wrestles with this, and that has hindered her recovery. It's hindered her relationships with her family and with other people in general. And that, like, just that one little moment gives you like so much of what you need to know about who Kim is.
Yeah, you know, we get a few moments where people, you know, as I mentioned earlier, people say like, "Oh, I wish Ethan could have been here," and you see, you know, everyone being like, "Oh, yeah," but you see Kim, and she's like, like it hurt, like it hurts her, and everyone else is just, you know, reflecting fondly of somebody who's passed. You know, everyone's just like, "No, yeah," but like for Kim, it's like it's a knife, like you can
another
feel
twist.
it. Yeah, and she's just like, "Oh," like it's just it's bad. And, you know, she has this big, you know, finally she has kind of a blowout moment with her sister. You know, her sister in the middle of a fight is like, I'm pregnant. And she was like, what the fuck? You can't do that. You can't throw a thing like that into the middle of it, which, in all fairness, fucking low. Like you shouldn't do that. Like your sister is like coming to terms and trying to acknowledge the fact that like she is struggling. She's just out of this. And I know it's your wedding and all, but like, in the middle of her being like, I am having a really hard time with this and I'm struggling and I just got out and blah, blah, blah. The sister's like, I'm pregnant. And she was like, what the fuck, dude?
This entire movie was basically like, it's time for the attention to be on me now.
Yes. But it was everybody plays the role. Like everybody's like, no, me. And then Kim's like, but me. And then mom's like, here I am. Now it's my turn. It was, oh boy. Yes. Man.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's what stressed me out the most, is because I was like, can just one person in this whole movie actually just listen to another person, any one of them, just pick one person, and somebody just fucking listen to that person say their feelings. Because like Rachel's feelings are valid. She's 100% valid. Like, this is her wedding. And I know that it's coming at a really awkward time of you just getting out of rehab and coming in and having to kind of like acclimate to such a large event. But like, this is my fucking wedding, you know, and Rachel's like, hi, I was fucked up and addicted and, you know, messed up, and I killed our younger brother, and I've been dealing with that for 10 years. And now I'm out and trying to get my life straight, but literally I have nothing and everything's bad. And I want somebody to listen to me. And everyone's like, no, me. It's like, shut the fuck up.
And meanwhile, Dad's just like, have you eaten yet? Here's a sandwich.
Right. And even, you know, and it's funny because, you know, Kim's character even says like, you know, oh, he thinks I'm anorexic and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, are you kidding? Like, he would feed, you know, these overfed workers all the time. Like, that's just who Dad is, because that's his character. He's and the thing is like, he is one of those people that him offering you food is a love language to him. Like, that's how he is expressing that he's thinking of you and caring for you. And yeah, I mean, it's not emotionally great, but like, it's his way of being like, I don't know how to do things, I made meatloaf. So, you know, and like, you know, so that you take that moment and be like, thanks, Dad, let's talk now, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Oh boy, stressful movie. So he goes and visits her mom after this moment of telling the story, and let me tell you, that does not go well.
Sure don't. It's like she's like had the blow up with the family. She's told the story, so like we now know like where she feels she stands amongst everyone, and she goes and confronts her mother, and like no one knows where, like the rest of the family doesn't know where she's gone. As far as they know, she's just like up and disappeared, and like she could be using again, or she could be like wherever.
Yeah.
And so that's where we have the moment of Kieran explaining, like, you know, coming home and seeing your family is difficult. She confronts her mother and is like, why would you leave me alone with her? Like, you knew, like people told you, like it was obvious. I was, you know, I weighed, you know, 50 pounds. My hair was falling out. I was passing out all the time. Like the signs were there. Why would you leave me with him? And the mother, like, at first tries to deny it. And she's like, you know, I didn't know. And like, you know, like you were good with him, and that was the only time that you were good. And like you see it like slowly start to come out, and then like the mother just freaks out, like, well, you weren't supposed to kill him. And they hit each other, and Kim drives off and wrecks the car.
Yes, which makes a conscious decision to wreck the car, by the way. We see that she's heading towards a fork in the road, which is like heavy-handed metaphor, first off. But so she's driving to the fork in the road, and you see
What
her.
could this mean?
Yeah, and she was like, and she, you know, I could make a choice right now. You know, I mean, like there very well could have just been a sign like, turn left for drugs, turn right to your family, and she was just like, you know,
I'll choose neither.
Yeah, and she does. She just drives straight, you know, crashes into a rock, you know, fucks up her face, and this is it. And it's a really weird moment because it's very much at the end of the film. Like, this happens the night before the wedding. Like this basically happens, you know, midnight before the wedding's about to happen the next day. You know, she gets woken up by police. They, you know, they check everything out. They, you know, medically check her. They tow the car, and she ends up getting a ride to the wedding, to then participate in the wedding. And, you know, everyone's just kind of like, are you okay? And no one's going to be like, what the fuck happened? You crashed a car. Like, this seems like a big deal. Your face is banged up.
I fully expected the like very stereotypical, like, look at your face, how could you do this, how could you ruin my day sort of reaction from Rachel. But we get the exact opposite, where like Rachel like takes her and like immediately like starts to like help her clean up, takes care of her. Like, there had been an argument earlier about the color of you know, Kim's sari. Like, she wanted to wear a gray that was in the color scheme, but like the other bridesmaids were wearing lavender. Just like, I don't like it. So, you know, Rachel dresses her in the gray one. She's like, you know what, you were right, and like just is very very like tender to her.
Yeah.
And like again, like at every pretty much every possible turn, like this movie like did the opposite of what I expected it to.
And it was weird because they even set it up with the father to have a moment of being like, "Oh my god!" But I'm not entirely sure as to whose car she crashed, though.
They
Maybe it's the dad's, but I couldn't tell if it was the mom's.
the implication is that they have several. So
Yeah. Well, so early on in the film, like the very first thing, as soon as as soon as they get home, she was like, "Hey, I have to go to my meeting, but like I can't be late. Like, can you take me, or can I borrow the car?" And he was like, "Well, I can't really take you right now." And he's like, "I don't feel comfortable with you taking the car. Like my insurance is high already, And it's obvious that this is where we start to get the sense that she crashed a car while high. Like that's where we start to kind of get the pieces.
mhm.
But they set that up as a perfect moment where it could have gone at the end and him being like, "See, this is why I didn't want you to drive." But that's not what happens. Like he very much is like, "Are you okay? Like, is everything fine?" Like, and he's right there for her. He's one of the first people that she sees. And I think that's you're right. It was not what I was expecting. They set it up to be completely opposite, and it was good. It was nice.
I also like they show her like stop at a convenience store or anything like that, but like I appreciate that they didn't set her up to just like immediately relapse the moment
Yeah.
something was hard, because that again is a very like stereotypical plot line for any character that has been an addict or has like been in rehab. Like the moment things get difficult, they run off and they relapse, and like sure that like probably definitely happens, but
Right.
like it's more interesting to see a character that like gets a chance to explore a different reaction.
Yeah, and what was interesting too, is that this was another one of those things where I thought they were setting it up to have her like have that moment of like, "Oh, I found my secret stash of pills.
Hmm.
Like here I am. I could totally be doing this thing again, and like I'm almost gonna do it, but then I'm gonna dramatically flush it down the toilet." And you see her open the cigar box, and I'm like, "Oh, here it is. Like there's a bunch of pills in there," but it's not. It's actually a bunch of photos of Ethan as a
Hmm.
kid. Like it's just childhood photos,
Hmm.
and there's no drugs in there whatsoever. And never throughout the movie, from start to finish, does she ever have like a moment of like, there are drugs right here and I could do a thing, or I do a thing. It's just, it never comes up again. She just doesn't have the opportunity. She doesn't bring it up. She doesn't even say like, "Oh man, I wish I could, get drunk right now." Like it's just, she's just moving on. And I think that's super interesting. I thought that was a very interesting choice.
Yeah, they don't have her frantically searching the family medicine cabinet. She's
Right.
not like sneaking into the booze stash, and like the one time you see her like drinking anything, she's like, "Don't worry, it's seltzer," and
Yeah.
she kind of like takes a little fun poke at herself. But yeah, like I really appreciate the way they handle these characters and like this very very delicate topic.
Yeah. So Rachel getting married. So this film is available on demand. So this is a film you have to rent or purchase. It was like $3 for me to rent. So
Yeah.
so should you watch this movie? Yes, with stipulations. So if you are a person who likes films that are really that are very raw feeling, that are very like, I guess this falls under like the mumble category of films or whatever, where it's like this definitely feels like somebody set up a camera and was like, "Hi, the general idea of this movie is this. Now go."
Hmm.
And then people just kind of like built the film from there, like kind of ad libbed it, but not in a awkward way. Because this film isn't awkward. Where a lot of films like that are designed to be awkward. It's
Hmm.
just uncomfortable
Yeah.
because of the subject matter, because of the tension that is looming the entire time. It's uncomfortable because of that. Like you feel like you're a member of the family and you're like, "Oh shit. Oh fuck, Rachel's going to talk about the thing again. Like, oh, don't bring that
Hmm.
up. You know that everyone gets mad when you do that." Like that's how I felt this whole movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It can be a very difficult film to watch, but it is a very good film, and surprisingly high caliber for us.
Yes, no, definitely surprisingly high caliber. Yeah, so as mentioned, Rachel Getting Married is available streaming on demand. So definitely check it out if you are so inclined, if you have not watched it already. But Caleb, what do we have coming up next? We have one more film, right, in this month?
Oh yeah, we are
Shit, did
checking
we?
out a.
Wow,
We're almost done with March,
how the
movie
fuck did that
wise.
happen?
Yeah, we're going to be checking out the Netflix sci-fi original, the Netflix original sci-fi movie. I got to be careful how I word that because might imply that it's the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah,
Io, starring Anthony
yeah,
Mackie. So very
yeah.
excited to check that out. You have said you have seen this,
I have
so
seen it.
you're
Yeah.
going to get a chance to revisit. I have not seen it, but I have observed its existence and have been looking forward to watching it. So.
I'm excited to have a second run through the film because I definitely had thoughts the first time around, but I feel like watching it the second time around, I might feel differently.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, there's a lot to be said for taking another chance through a movie. I mean, we had that last week when we talked about We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and that was one that I'd already seen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Margaret Qualley, Anthony Mackie, Danny Houston, Tom Payne, pretty decent cast. So it looks like it's probably a fairly small cast movie if I'm correct.
Correct. Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. Anthony Mackie as a scientist trying to save the dying Earth. I'm here for that.
Yeah. So definitely check that out. And of course, if you guys are wanting to, please go ahead and hit subscribe over on that podcast button. We super appreciate it. Subscribe or follow or whatever it is that your podcast player of choice says. We very much appreciate that. And if you are so inclined, leave a rating and review. It's super, super helpful for us. Helps us rank better and get more people discovering us, which would be absolutely great. And of course, you can find us at social media at the Nahoid Podcast on both Twitter and Instagram. But Caleb, where else can they find us?
Well, you can check us out over at thenahoit.com. It's THENHOIT.com, where we post our monthly schedule of upcoming episodes with links to trailers, as well as where you can find the movie streaming if available. And of course, our contact form where you can fill that out and tell us what you think of the show, or tell us movies that you want to hear us talk about. I mean, we just did a whole month of listener requests, and then of course this month was a non-listener request, but a request nonetheless. So we love to do it. So keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks a lot for joining us, everyone, and we will see you next time.